Hello everyone, welcome back to Weathering the Front News. My name is Owen and I'll be your host today. And I wanted to have a discussion with you about how the world is on fire. No, not that fire, but the internet fire that we're all experiencing right now. Everywhere we look, there seems to be groups in opposition to things that we used to think were very easy to get through, like Nazis. It should be very, very easy to say, fuck Nazis. And I thought that would be easy, but in my discussions, I found that it wasn't so easy. There is a lot of distraction tactics in play. Many people would say, yeah, fuck Nazis, and BLM, and the KKK, and the Antifa. But there's a problem there. Nazis and KKK, Antifa and BLM exist in opposition of those two groups, specifically BLM to the KKK and Antifa to the Nazis. So if you're saying fuck all these guys, then what are you representing? What do you stand for? Where do you draw your value? And what are you representing? I mean, just the International Internet Shitstirrers Union? Because you kind of have to be one or the other here. Those two things cannot exist in the same space. Oh, but Antifa are anarcho-communists, they say. Well, obviously, claiming that a minority of a group, that minority represents the whole group, is flawed logic. That'd be like saying that every Donald Trump supporter is a racist, bigot, Nazi. Now, clearly, if you've demonstrated that logic, why then do you abandon it to disparage the enemies of Nazis? What are you really defending? It typically is difficult to make sure that we know all the details of an event, of a group, of a movement that is happening. But we know that we still have to face these things. The details are important. What matters is the prioritization of those details. You might not like Black Lives Matter or Antifa, but they're not the ones marching in the streets calling for the genocide of over 50% of the nation, the extermination or exile of over 50% of the nation. They're not doing that right now. And if they ever did, then you better believe that I would stand against them too. I hope you would join me on that. What these other groups are asking for is justice. What Nazis and KKK want is dominance. And we cannot give that to them. So let's keep our priorities straight. But that's very difficult to do in this internet fire that we're dealing with. And I want to let you know that you are my fellow Americans. I do not say this as either you're with me or you're against me. I say it because I believe the reason that you stand in opposition is because you've been lied to. I think you've been lied to. The deferred action for childhood arrivals, I've not seen any real problem with that when it comes to its use. It's ridiculous that we want to get rid of it right now, and the only people defending it, all I get are one-word missives like, it's bullshit. No, there's more to it. If you stand in opposition, give me more. Don't just suck the air out of the room. Tell me why you oppose DACA. They're not criminals. They are educated. They're overwhelmingly employed. Why is this a bad thing? Also, they came here as children. So we're in such a rush not to punish the actions, or punish the child for the actions of the parents when it comes to abortions. But when it comes to this, we're fine. Those two things have a hard time existing in the same space. The Affordable Care Act. It has some problems. It's not perfect. But the reasons that people seem to be opposed to it are internet memes. False, factually incorrect internet memes. Things like DACA, the ACA, Russian collusion in the election, and climate change. All of these things have details that we can know. We can go read the original text of the bill that was passed, or of the research that has been done, or the intelligence that's been collected. We can know a lot of these things. We have to choose to. And that's why I try to have these discussions with people whenever I get an opportunity, because I can learn something, and I feel that they can learn something. Or I'll learn how wrong I am, however it goes. One good example would be the most recent information that came out about the climate change studies. We know that 97% of scientists are in agreement that climate change is real and that it is man-made, that it is caused by human actions on the planet. And 3%, a very, very small group, feel differently. They think that it's just natural, it's a part of the sun cycles or the orbit of the planets or something like that, but none of them have a consensus as to what it is. So it's kind of the the shallow end of the research pool where all the crazy ideas get cast. So we now know even more firmly that climate change is real and that it is caused by humans than we've ever been before. That's very real. We can see that. We can know that. So we shouldn't be in disagreement about whether or not it's real. The real enemies of the state, they need us distracted. We've known that the entire time any of us have been discussing politics. There's always some ubiquitous they trying to cast false flags or create problems elsewhere. We know those things exist, and we need to be interested in those details of how each of these things are so that we can determine what's real and what's not. It's important that we whinge over every little detail and that we do so respectfully and civilly with each other in the spaces that we find ourselves having these discussions. There is no promise that we're going to agree on everything, but one thing we shouldn't disagree on is what's real. And that's why I hope that we can engage each other civilly in every opportunity that we get, because being a part of our democracy means being able to have these discussions. If you just want to shout bullshit on the internet and then walk away, you're not really taking your place in the democracy. So thank you for watching. This was this week's Weathering the Front News. I'll see you next time.